Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. It's not a Friday reading vlog, even though I start my Friday reading vlogs in bed. It's another reading vlog. Today's reading vlog is assisted by you lovely lot. I put out a call. Only just woken up. Hasn't got a full vocal range yet. On Instagram. And asked for your advice in reading short stories. Short stories is a genre I've never fully been able to connect to. Sure, I've enjoyed them along the way. Putting her foot out because she's a bit warm. I've enjoyed a lot of short stories along the way. But short stories as a collection always makes me feel a bit, oh, I know there's going to be some I don't like. How am I going to feel about this? Etc, etc. And I thought I'd put out on Instagram asking you guys for advice. So throughout this video, and it's still incoming, so throughout this video I'm going to be using some of the tips that you guys have given me to read short stories. And this might be helpful because you might also feel the same about short stories, or it might just open up a different way for you to read short stories. You might simply like to enjoy a reading vlog and see me reading a short story collection. The short story collection I'm going to be reading today is Send Nudes by Sabah Sams. I saw this because my friend Emma got it out from the library and I was like, oh, that sounds really good. Then when I went to my library, it was at that library, so I got it out. I will read the blurb to you. In 10 dazzling stories, Sabah Sams dives into the world of girlhood and immerses us in its contradiction and complexities. Threading between clubs at closing time, pub toilets, drenched music festivals and beach holidays, these unforgettable short stories deftly chart the treacherous terrain of growing up, of intense friendships, of ambivalent mothers, of uneasily blended families, and of learning to truly live in your own beauty. Now that sounds to me great. So, as I said, I asked on Instagram for some advice on how to read short stories, and I got back quite a lot. We will go into all of them as the video goes on, but I will list them all down below if you want just somewhere to have a look and sort of collate them. A few of them that I got back were basically the same tip but worded in different ways. So if your tip that you gave isn't specifically here, it's because it was similar to another tip. But the tips we're going to adhere to right here, right now. So somebody said, put tabs on the first page of each short story so you know how long they are. And that sort of thing is helpful for me. So I'm going to go through with some of these little tabs that I got from my reading prize, you know, reading prize? Ultimate Reading Challenge, and put the tabs in. So that's before I've even started doing anything. That way also I'll get a chance to have a little look at the first of the title of the stories, because I think that's quite enjoyable. So the first one's called Tenderloin. I wonder if that's got something to do with Tinder, something that I've never used before. Next one's called Overnight. I mean, this I'm enjoying this already. Just put in the little, oh, that's a short one. Next one's called Snakebite. And I imagine that's to do with the drink snake bite, not an actual snake bite. That is the last one. So there we go. Tabs in them to see which is how long the next one is, which I will find helpful. Now, other advice I've had is read one story at a time. Do not plough through these like a novel. And oh, have I not written that down? That was the main this is weird. Okay, the main tip that people gave me was give yourself some time afterwards to digest. So that also links in with the tip, try and read each story in one go. Don't stop halfway through, because it's a short piece of fiction. It's made to be read in a short period of time. A lot of people said only read one story a day. A lot of people said only try and read 3 stories a day. Nobody said just read the whole thing. So I put 1 to a few stories a day to allow them time to settle in. That's probably where I put the time to settle in. So we're giving time after each one. So popping it down, having a little think about it. We're only reading 1 to a few of these a day. So I'm probably going to read 3 of these today. The first one I'm going to read sat in bed. Somebody said read them slower or with intent to notice the description and words. Now, I am guilty of reading something fast, particularly if I know I've got somewhere to be and I think, oh, I just need to get through to the end of this. So today, the day that I'm started filming this, is a very lovely slow day with not much going on. David's actually out at the moment playing tennis, so I'm all in by myself. So I'm just going to chill, read it in one go, take my time with it, and then have a good think about it afterwards. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do that first one with me reading in bed. And as I said, the first story is called Tenderloin. The first line is, I met Ryan on Tinder. Here I go. I'm going to take it in, go slow. Well, there we go. First story read. I enjoyed it a lot. As I said, it was called Tenderloin. Another tip somebody gave me, Tenderloin, was to summarise each story with a few short words. So I'm going to do that each time I read a story. I think that's going to be quite helpful, because often when I come to like wrap these up or review them at the end, I'm like, oh, what was that story about? What was that story about? So this is going to help. So Tenderloin was about a young girl called Grace. She's 16 and she works with, she goes to school and lives with her father. Her mother died when she was younger, and her father is a butcher, and she helps out with that, and she seemingly gets quite a lot of joy and contentment out of working as a butcher. She meets a chap called Ryan on Tinder and gets in a relationship with him. He is 11 years older than her and has a dog called Petal, and when she starts, she doesn't really get on very well with Petal, but she bonds with Petal very, very much. Petal is a dog that is protective of the people around her and bites, and she bites her dad, Grace's dad, and eventually Ryan. The three words I'm going to... Oh, there's also... Grace falls pregnant very early on in the story with Ryan's baby and miscarries. So three words I'm going to use. I'm going to use blood, because there's a lot of mentions of blood in the book. She's a butcher. She talks about her period. She miscarries. Ryan is bitten by Petal the dog, and there's a lot of blood then. I'm going to use the word butchers, or butchery, because that is a big theme in the book, with her getting joy out of that and contentment out of that. And she talks a lot about how she cuts the joints and things like that and everything she makes, and she also gives these things that she's butchered as gifts to Petal the dog to sort of bond with her, which works. And then lastly, I'm going to put dog because her love for Petal, particularly at the end of the story, is very strong, and it's definitely something that I remember about the book. So there we go. The first story, enjoyed it lots. David's home from tennis. I will greet him and get back to you.
One slice.
Just the one slice, please, my love. And I've got a mug here if you'd like to make me a cup of tea. Yeah. David's back from tennis. It wasn't his bestest tennis game. He thinks it's because we ate lots of rubbish yesterday, and he wasn't feeling on form. But he says, don't worry, he's not going to give up forever. So that's good, isn't it? So, I read the story in one go. I read it slower than I would normally read a book, and reread passages if I didn't feel like I'd got what happened there. So with intent to notice the description and words. I did read it in one go, I said that. I didn't plough through it. Here's my cup of tea. My husband's just making me another cup of tea. Love you. Another tip somebody gave. Oh, I summarised it with a few short words, and then someone said, don't have the short story collection as your sole read. Intersperse it, like read another book alongside it, or another couple of books, whatever you would read. So I'm currently reading Idle Burning by Rin Yusami. So I'm going to carry on reading this before I read another short story a bit later on in the day. Feel like so far so good, the advice is working. The next tip someone gave me was to listen to short story collections on Audible, on audio, and treat them like podcasts, sort of like one episode and then think, oh yeah, I'll have a little think about that, which I suppose is the same as reading one and then putting it down. But I am into listening to things on audio. So I've downloaded Send Nudes this morning on Audible. The next story we've got is called Midnights, and it's 11 minutes and 4 seconds long. Now, in keeping with every other bit of advice I've been given, David was in the car last, which means I have to adjust all the mirrors, that you should read a thing in its entirety. I'm going to the shops to do my shopping to get some bits to make for my sister's birthday tomorrow. And both shops are roughly about 10 minutes away. And this is 11 minutes 4, and I want it to be finished by the time. I suppose I could sit in the car park and just listen to the last minutes. But I think I'll go to the shop which is just slightly further away. Just slightly. In the other direction. So yeah, so I'll do that, listen to this, and let you know how I get on with it when I get to Tesco. Overnight. I'm here. I'm really not sure what's going on over there. There's a man, well, I assume this is in relation to the Jubilee. There's a man dressed up as a soldier dancing with a bucket. I assume they're collecting for something. Anyway, I finished the story. This one was a bit of a, the last one was covering a difficult topic, I guess, but this one also covers a difficult topic because I won't tell you what all of the stories are about, by the way, but whilst I'm doing this, because I'm trying to, another tip somebody gave me was to try and ascertain a link between the stories. But this story was about 2 young adults just leaving school, Maxine and George, and how they met and their friendship over the years. And then it ends with them being out drinking at a club and waking up in the morning, and Maxine thinks that George has done something that she didn't consent to. But that's a very much a drop in the sort of lake of the story. The story is mainly about their friendship and how they met in Primark when their mums were talking about school uniforms and over the years and what's this happened and what's that happened and all this sort of thing. And then just at the end they're out clubbing and he's touching her leg in a way she's not happy, and she's sort of like, get off me. And then it's the slightest mention of it the next morning. Yeah, and I found it, God, the sun's really just come out, which is lovely, but I'm really squinting. So yeah. What words would I use to describe it? I don't know, maybe I need a bit more time to think about that one. Anyway, I'm gonna go and do my shopping and see what all this carry-on's about. The last short story I'm going to read, although I don't know why David can't just put his washing in the washing bin. Although it's not a short one. God, I can't move for bloody spiders in this house at the moment. I killed one in the shower this morning by accident. Last short story I'm going to read today, sticking with the rules. This one's 40 pages long, so it's quite a long one. It's called Snakebite. One of the tips was that you should always try and finish one when you start it so that it's a completed piece. I mean, 40 pages in the bath, that's quite a long time, but it's definitely doable. And reading in the bath is one of my favourite places to read, so I'm going to read that book, that short story called Snakebite, which I imagine is about the drink Snakebite, which is the drink that was about when I was a student. I think it's half lager, half cider, and a shot of blackcurrant. And yeah, it really was as destructive as it sounds. If it is that. I'm sure it was, because I think a cider and blackcurrant was just called a cider and black. Anyway, I'm going to read the whole thing, and then that's it for me. As I said, one of the tips was that don't try and read it like a novel. Keep it, like, only read one or a few a day. So yeah, let's read this one, Snakebite in the bath, and then I'll see you next time for more. Hello. Ooh, quite on me. We're reading another short story for the old short story vlog, and it's the titular title, so we're on to the 4th one. I read 3 yesterday. Today I am only going to read the 1, but this one is called Send Nudes, which is what the title of the collection's called. I wonder if you've picked the title. I mean, maybe answer this below if you have read many short stories, or if you're a writer of a short story collection. Does by picking the name of the collection from a story within that collection have meaning, in that you think this is the story that is most representative of all the stories that are in your collection? Do you think it's your best story in the collection? Do you think it's got the most snappiest title, which is going to translate as a sort of great title for a short story collection? I wonder. So yeah, I guess with knowing that it's the title of the book, I'm hoping that the short story Send Nudes is going to be a really good one. So let's crack on. I've got a cupcake and a cup of tea, and I'm ready to read. It's only a short little one. It's about 14 pages, I think, so it shouldn't take too long. And the first line is thusly: in a bus stop, she listens as two people discuss an approaching storm. Well, I finished it. It was fine. It wasn't my favourite story that I've read out of the 4 I've read so far. What do you think, Minnie? Minnie's very much enjoying a nice cuddle. It was about a woman using an app in which to meet strangers and chat with them, and obviously these things always descend into sex. And it's all sort of like with the background of this looming storm that's going to happen in the UK. And it's about her obviously sending nudes to a stranger on the internet after he has sent her a nude. And what I did find funny was the way she was sort of like describing this chap as chivalrous because he'd sent the first nude. I mean, they knew why they were there, but I don't know if I would count that as chivalrous myself. But yeah, it was fine. It wasn't my favourite of the collection so far, but I definitely think that the title Send Nudes is something that is eye-catching, isn't it? And on the front of a, I mean, it worked for me when I saw my friend had this short story collection that was called Send Nudes. I was like, oh, interested, and then saw it in the and then that's memorable, isn't it? So saw it in the library and picked it up myself. So yeah. Anyway, I suppose I'm going to do a little bit more reading because I am sticking to the tip today of just reading one. I think I'll listen to one on my way home tomorrow on audiobook, and I think I will maybe read another one tomorrow night when I'm in. But now, goodbye. Hello! It's a good few days later. I've got 3 stories left, and I've been continuing to employ the little tips and tricks that you guys have given me, and I've really enjoyed this collection. Now, I don't know if that's reflective of the fact... Look at Minnie just running over here. I don't know if that's reflective of the fact that it's a really good short story collection. I don't know if it could be as simple as the fact that I've just dedicated a little bit more time to this short story collection. I've really been taking my time with it. I've been making sure there's no other distractions when I'm around, and this is just the thing that I'm focusing on, whether I be that I'm listening to it on audio or reading it. And I've been leaving it time to settle. I also feel like the tip of writing 3 little words to wrap up the story has really, really helped. And I haven't always done that straight away. Sometimes as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh God, yeah, this story's about friendship, or this story's about dependency. And I'll know that that's what's going to happen, but that's what I'm going to write down. But other stories, I'm like, put that down, have a little think about it, and then come back to it. And then within that, I've done like a few little lines and linked, like, animals seem to feature quite heavily in here. The theme of blood features quite heavily. I mean, like I said, I've still got 3 stories left. But the tips that you guys have given me have really, really helped me to enjoy this collection a lot. So I'm really going to employ them going forward when I'm reading more short story collections, because I really would like to read more short story collections. So let me know down below if you found any of these tips helpful. Let me know if you have an additional tip that hasn't been mentioned. Would love to hear about that. And also let me know if you've enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed me asking you guys for tips on a certain thing. Minnie's really looking at me. On a certain thing, and then like actually executing it, because I've really enjoyed doing it. So hopefully you've enjoyed watching too. And yeah, I guess that's it, and I'll see you all again soon for another booktube video. Just say bye, Minnie.